Some of these ships started global arms races the moment they launched. Some were so feared their enemies spent fortunes destroying them before they ever fired a shot. And one is so large it carries enough aircraft to defeat most of the world's air forces alone. These are the 10 most massive and most powerful warships ever built. Let's get into it. Number 10. HMS Dreadnought, United Kingdom. On February 10th, 1906, a warship slid into the water at Portsmouth Naval Shipyard and made every other battleship on Earth obsolete in a single afternoon. The HMS Dreadnought was built in secret in just 366 days, a construction speed that defied every naval engineering standard of the era. She displaced 18,110 tons, stretched 527 feet from bow to stern, and carried 10 12-inch guns arranged in 5 turrets capable of firing a broadside heavier than anything afloat. Her steam turbine engines drove her to 21 knots, making her faster than the battleships she outgunned and more powerful than anything that could match her speed. Within hours of her commissioning, every navy on Earth understood the same thing simultaneously. Every battleship they owned was now second rate. Every ship they had spent decades building was rendered strategically worthless by a single vessel. Britain had reset the arms race to zero and put herself back at the starting line with everyone else. The Germans began building their own dreadnoughts within months. The Japanese followed, the Americans followed, the Austro-Hungarian Empire followed. Every major naval power on Earth spent the next decade in a frantic construction race, directly caused by one ship leaving one harbor on one winter morning in 1906. No single warship in history triggered a more immediate or more consequential global response. But this next ship spent the entire war hiding in a fjord and still cost the Allies billions without firing a single shot. Number 9. Tirpitz, Germany. The Tirpitz was the most powerful threat in the Second World War that never fired its main guns in battle. Built as the sister ship of the Bismarck and completed in 1941, she displaced 52,600 tons at full load and carried 8 15-inch guns and 4 twin turrets, the same armament that had sunk HMS Hood in under 8 minutes. She was 824 feet long, armored with up to 12.6 inches of steel on her belt, and capable of 30 knots. She never needed to fight. Her existence alone was enough. Anchored in Norwegian fjords throughout most of the war, the mere possibility that she might sortie into the Atlantic forced the Royal Navy to permanently station multiple battleships and aircraft carriers specifically to counter her. In July 1942, when convoy PQ-17 was sailing for the Soviet Union, the Admiralty received intelligence that the Tirpitz had left port. The convoy was ordered to scatter. 24 of the 35 merchant ships were sunk by German aircraft and submarines. The Tirpitz had never left the fjord. She turned back before engaging. She killed more Allied sailors by existing than many warships killed by actually fighting. The British launched 39 air raids and multiple midget submarine attacks against her over 3 years. She was finally sunk in November 1944 by RAF bombers carrying 12,000-pound tall boy bombs. A ship that never fought a surface battle consumed more British military resources than almost any other single target of the entire war. Now this one actually fought, and the Royal Navy threw everything at it, but the crew had to sink it themselves. Number 8. Bismarck, Germany. When the Bismarck sailed from Gdynia in May 1941, it carried 8 15-inch guns, armor plating up to 12.6 inches thick, and a reputation built on exactly 0 combat experience. 8 days later, it had sunk the pride of the Royal Navy and absorbed nearly 3,000 shells without going down. It remains the most dramatic demonstration of battleship survivability in naval history. She displaced 50,300 tons at full load and stretched 823 feet stem to stern. Her 4 twin 15-inch turrets could fire shells weighing 1,764 pounds over a range of more than 17 miles. In the Denmark Strait on May 24th, she engaged HMS Hood, the largest warship in the Royal Navy, and sent her to the bottom in under 8 minutes. 3 men survived from Hood's crew of 1,418. The entire Royal Navy was immediately redirected to hunt her down. After being crippled by a torpedo that jammed her rudders, she circled in the North Atlantic while 2 British battleships, 2 cruisers, and multiple destroyers closed in. They fired 2,876 shells over 2 hours. More than 400 struck home. Her guns fell silent one by one. Her superstructure was reduced to wreckage, and she still would not sink. It was her own crew who finally sent her down, opening the seacocks and setting explosive charges rather than surrender. The most feared battleship in the Atlantic required her own sailors to finish the job the Royal Navy could not complete alone. Number 7, Iowa-class, United States. But a ship that fought 4 wars across 5 decades and never once went down is a different kind of machine entirely. 4 ships, 9 16-inch guns each. Service records stretching from 1943 to 1992. No other battleship class in history served with the longevity, the symbolic weight, or the sheer operational range of the Iowa class. They were the largest and fastest battleships the United States ever built, displacing 57,540 tons at full load and reaching 33 knots, fast enough to escort aircraft carriers at full speed while outgunning anything afloat. Each main turret weighed more than a destroyer. A full broadside from all 9 guns simultaneously could throw 24,000 pounds of steel more than 23 miles in under a minute. The armor belt ran to 12.1 inches of hardened steel. The class was designed to survive anything short of a direct hit from another battleship's main armament. The USS Missouri hosted the Japanese surrender ceremony in Tokyo Bay on September 2nd, 1945, the most consequential moment in 20th century military history. She then served in Korea and was eventually decommissioned. Then in 1986, she was brought back. In 1991, during Operation Desert Storm, she fired Tomahawk cruise missiles at Iraqi targets from the Persian Gulf, the last time any battleship engaged in combat anywhere on Earth. A warship designed in the late 1930s was still fighting in 1991. 4 of the class survive today as museum ships. They are considered by the US Navy to be potentially reactivatable if the need ever arose. This one took more hits to sink than any warship in recorded history. Number 6, IJN Musashi, Japan. On October 24th, 1944, during the Battle of Leyte Gulf, she became the most difficult warship to sink in naval history. American aircraft attacked in 11 separate waves over 5 hours. By the time she finally rolled over and sank, she had absorbed at least 19 torpedo hits and 17 bomb strikes. Some estimates put the torpedo count at 20. No warship before or since has survived anything approaching that level of punishment before going down. She displaced 72,000 tons at full load and carried the same 9 18.1-inch guns as her sister, weapons capable of hurling shells 26 miles with enough force to penetrate any armor afloat. Each complete gun mount weighed more than a fully loaded destroyer. Her hull was wrapped in steel plating specifically engineered to absorb punishment that would split a conventional warship in 2. She was designed to be unsinkable by conventional naval gunfire. American aircraft proved that, given enough ordnance, even the unsinkable eventually goes down. It just takes more than anyone anticipated. Of her crew of 2,399 men, 1,023 survived. The wreck was located in 2015 by Paul Allen's research vessel in the Sibian Sea at a depth of nearly 3,300 feet, broken into 2 main sections on the ocean floor. And the crazy part about what comes after is that it is not even a battleship, but on radar, it looks like a fishing boat. Number 5, USS Zumwalt, United States. The USS Zumwalt is 610 feet long, displaces 14,564 tons, and on radar, it looks like a fishing boat. The most advanced destroyer ever built by any navy on Earth was specifically engineered so that no radar system in the world can accurately identify what it actually is. Its angular tumble-home hull design, sloped superstructure, and composite materials reduce its radar cross-section to approximately that of a 10-foot vessel. A warship heavier than a World War II cruiser is essentially invisible to the systems designed to detect it. It carries 80 vertical launch missile cells capable of firing Tomahawk land attack missiles, anti-submarine rockets, and surface-to-air interceptors. Its 2 advanced gun systems fire 155mm 3mm guided shells to a range of 83 miles at a rate of 10 rounds per minute each. Its integrated power system generates 78 megawatts of electricity, enough to power a small city, and it was designed with surplus capacity to eventually accommodate directed energy weapons, including railguns and high-energy lasers that do not yet exist in deployable form. Only 3 were ever built. The program was originally planned for 32 ships before cost overruns and changing strategic priorities reduced the order. Each unit cost $4.4 billion. The Navy decided 3 was enough. 3 ships that disappear from radar, carry enough firepower to destroy a city, and cost more per unit than most countries spend on their entire military annually. But this was built for one thing only: kill aircraft carriers before they can launch a single plane. Number 4. Kirov-class battlecruiser, Soviet Union. The Kirov class was the Soviet Union's answer to a question nobody else was asking. How do you build a warship powerful enough to neutralize American aircraft carriers before their planes ever leave the deck? The answer was 826 feet of nuclear-powered steel carrying 20 P-700 Granite anti-ship missiles, each one capable of supersonic flight at Mach 2.5 and carrying a 1,500-pound warhead, or optionally a nuclear payload. One missile could mission kill a destroyer. 20 of them fired simultaneously were designed to overwhelm the defensive systems of an entire carrier battle group. Nuclear propulsion gave each ship essentially unlimited range. The combination of reactors and oil-fired boilers produced enough power for 32 knots, making them the fastest large warships in the world at their commissioning. They displaced 24,000 tons and carried, in addition to the main missile battery, an arsenal of anti-aircraft missiles, torpedoes, anti-submarine rockets, and 130mm guns. The Kirovs were the largest warships built by any navy since World War II that were not aircraft carriers. They are still referred to by NATO as battle cruisers because nothing else in the post-war inventory of any navy approaches their combination of size and firepower. 4 were built. 1, the Pyotr Veliki, remains in service with the Russian Navy today. The fact that a warship designed in the 1970s is still considered among the most dangerous surface combatants afloat tells you something about the scale of what the Soviet Union built. And what follows is the most advanced military technology ever put on water, and it never needs to refuel. Number 3, Nimitz-class aircraft carrier, United States. 10 ships. Each one displaces 104,000 tons. Each one is 1,092 feet long, roughly the length of the Empire State Building laid on its side. Each one carries between 75 and 90 aircraft. Each one is powered by 2 nuclear reactors that can drive it at over 30 knots indefinitely without refueling. The Nimitz-class aircraft carriers are the largest conventional weapon systems ever operated by any military force in human history, and there are 10 of them currently in service or reserve. The air wing aboard each carrier typically includes FA-18 Super Hornets, EA-18G Growler electronic warfare aircraft, E-2D Advanced Hawkeyes for airborne early warning, MH-60 helicopters, and in recent deployments, F-35C stealth fighters. That air group alone represents more combat aviation capability than the entire air forces of most nations. When the United States deploys a carrier strike group, it does so with the carrier flanked by 2 guided missile cruisers, 2 destroyers, an attack submarine, and a supply ship. The combined firepower of a carrier strike group exceeds the military capability of the majority of the world's sovereign nations. The nuclear reactors require refueling only once every 20 to 25 years. A ship commissioned today will still be operational in 2070. These carriers are so large they have their own postal zip codes and their own fire departments. They carry crews of approximately 6,000 sailors and airmen. They are not warships in the conventional sense. They are mobile military bases that happen to move at 30 knots. But above it sits something even larger, newer, and capable of launching aircraft faster than anything before it. Number 2, IJN Yamato, Japan. There has never been a battleship like the Yamato. There never will be again. Completed in December 1941 and displacing 72,800 tons at full load, she was the heaviest battleship ever constructed. Her 9 18.1-inch guns remained the largest naval guns ever mounted on a warship. Each barrel was 75 feet long. Each shell weighed 3,220 pounds. A full 9-gun broadside delivered over 29,000 pounds of ordnance to a target 26 miles away. Each gun turret weighed more than most destroyers the Yamato was designed to fight alongside. Her armor belt ran to 16 inches of hardened steel. The barbettes protecting her turret bases were 21 inches thick. She was designed on the assumption that the United States could not match her ton for ton and gun for gun, and she was correct. No American battleship ever built came close to her dimensions. The problem was that battleships were already obsolete by the time she entered service. Aircraft carriers had replaced them as the decisive instrument of naval power, and the Yamato spent most of her operational life as a symbol rather than a weapon. On April 7, 1945, she was sent on a one-way mission to Okinawa with fuel for only a one-way journey, intended to beach herself and fight as a shore battery until destroyed. She never arrived. American aircraft found her and attacked in 10 waves over 2 hours. It took 386 aircraft to sink her. 11 torpedoes and 6 bombs struck home before she capsized and exploded. Of her crew of 3,332 men, 3,055 died. The largest battleship in history was sunk not by another battleship, but by aircraft, proving conclusively that the era of the gun had ended. And the largest warship ever built by any nation in human history is still in active service today. Number 1. USS Gerald R. Ford, United States. The USS Gerald R. Ford is 1,092 feet long, 134 feet wide, and rises 250 feet from keel to mast top. She displaces 100,000 tons at full load. She is powered by 2 nuclear reactors, generating 600,000 shaft horsepower. She costs $13.3 billion. She is the largest warship ever built in the history of naval warfare, and she is currently operational in the United States Navy. She carries up to 90 aircraft, including FA-18 Super Hornets, F-35C stealth fighters, E-2D Hawkeyes, and MH-60 helicopters. What makes her categorically different from the carriers she is replacing is not size, but technology. She uses electromagnetic aircraft launch systems instead of steam catapults, allowing her to launch aircraft at higher sortie rates with less mechanical stress on the airframes. The Advanced Arresting Gear System uses electromagnetic braking instead of hydraulics, reducing weight and maintenance requirements dramatically. She has a smaller crew than the Nimitz-class carriers despite being larger, because automation has replaced hundreds of the roles that previously required human operation. Her radar cross-section has been reduced through hull design changes. Her island superstructure has been relocated and reduced in size. Her electrical generation capacity has been tripled compared to previous carriers to support future directed energy weapons. She was designed not just for the weapons of today, but for the weapons of 2050. The Yamato's 918.1-inch guns represented the peak of what one design philosophy could achieve. The Gerald R. Ford represents a completely different philosophy. Not the largest guns, not the thickest armor, but the ability to project air power anywhere on Earth within hours, sustain operations for weeks without resupply, and defeat threats that have not yet been fully defined. The most powerful warship ever built does not look like the most powerful warship ever built. It looks like a floating city, because that is exactly what it is. From a single British battleship that made every navy on Earth obsolete overnight to a nuclear-powered floating city that carries more combat aircraft than most countries own, these 10 warships represent the absolute peak of what naval engineering produces when a nation decides that the oceans belong to it. Some changed the world by fighting, some changed it simply by existing. Every one of them pushed the limits of what any sane person would consider reasonable to put on water.